Here we are. We have reached the championship match. Number 1 against number 2 for the championship of the Cambridge Credit Counseling Invitational and the crown of Lord of the Lefties, as Paul Smith now takes on the top seed Chris Soule out of Feeding Hills, Massachusetts. Smith, the 2 seed, up first. Right back at it, opening up strong.
A perfect shot. As expected, Paul Smith. When we saw the graphics and we saw the name, we saw some averages. Those averages were just the first 5 games that they bowled to qualify. They don't include the head-to-head match averages.
Which is how the seeding is determined.
Exactly. So that may give you a misconception. How could somebody average higher but be seeded less?
Here's Chris Soule. His first roll in our telecast is perfect.
That's a great shot. This is the first time for me seeing Chris Soule. What I like most about him, he's a big guy. He gets low, and he stays low. Watch this. His upper half gets nice and low, and it's all leverage. Maybe we won't be watching this one.
Bowled collegiately at William Patterson College. 2-time College Bowler of the Year for the national champs.
Look how that ball's rolling on a 2 o'clock kind of an axis. That's what you want.
6 NEBA titles for Soule. And a little bit of help to let the 3 go down and leave just the 9 remaining.
That's kind of a weird break. When the bowler throws a strike from the left-hand side, his bowling ball hits the 1, 2, 5, 8. Every other pin is up to luck. I got to see what the 5 pin does on this, because it was actually a great shot. He gets the ball out. Ball's coming back. Let's watch the 5 pin go right by the 9. Went in front of it.
And the spare is picked up by Soule, so after the opening frame strike, he'll settle for a spare in frame number 2. And here is Paul Smith working on his opening frame perfection. Smith defeating Thomas Coco Jr. in our previous match, 216 to 201.
We saw how much the lane condition changed from game 1 to game 2 for Thomas Coco. Let's just make sure Paul Smith actually makes the right adjustments to stay ahead of it.
Smith high on that head pin, and that leaves 1 pin left, the 6.
One of the blessings that a big cranker like Paul has is that speed. He's able to keep the ball on the left-hand side of the head pin. That wasn't very far on the left-hand side. That almost was right through the head pin. But because of his speed and those revs, he actually just hit to the left of the head pin, which helped him avoid the big split right there.
And the sharp break picks up the 6, and Smith and Soule tied through 2.
For lefties, especially Paul, when he leaves a spare, either at the 5 pin or to the right of the 5 pin or the head pin, he's going to probably hook the ball like that at the spares. Any spare that he leaves on the left side, the 7 pin, the 4 pin, the 8 pin, he'll probably straighten out and go a little bit harder at him.
See how he works that ball over that rag, that towel. Which do you prefer, towel or rag?
I guess a towel, right?
3rd frame now for Paul Smith. And again, a little bit high on the head.
His bowling ball's creeping a little bit high on the head pin. Again, he's trying to get 50% of the head pin, 50% of that 2 pin. Maybe that was about 60-40. It's all it takes on that big angle. And he leaves 1 pin spare.
And now here in the 3rd frame, Smith, it's from Clinton, Connecticut. Wow, that broke sharply and hit the other side of the pin, but takes care of business. And again, we are pretty much tied through 3.
As long as he keeps his speed up, he'll be all right. But if he let that speed down a little bit, look at this thing break. Almost right by.
Soule now with a strike would take the lead. Right in the pocket, and the pesky 7 was knocked over by a couple of pins.
Great reaction. I love the way he gets down low and stays low. He sent the head pin off the right-hand side kick wall. It came all the way back, knocked out the 7 pin for him. Watch his lower body. He gets so low right there, and he stays low throughout the shot. That's so important. You can't pick up your head or anything. You lose all your leverage. The head pin is going to do a lot of damage. Off the sidewall, all the way back. 7 pin, knock him out.
Yeah, without that head pin reaction. He'd have been looking at a spare, trying for 2 in a row, and that time a little bit low. Never saw the head pin.
Yeah, so he's wondering what on earth just happened. There's a couple of things. Could have drifted right with his feet and caught a little bit more head oil right before he let the ball go, or he might not have thrown that great of a strong release. I'm thinking maybe he drifted. Let's take a look. With this angle, it's a little hard, but if he drifted right there, and then he comes back, I think he got his elbow out a little bit. It wasn't definitely behind the ball. He got it just out to the side, and it didn't bite for him.
Cleaning things up, the spare in the 4th for Chris Soule, and that gives a bit of an opening for Paul Smith.
That's a great way to go after that spare. He had the 1, 3, I'm sorry, the 1, 2, 5, or the 1, 3, 5, and he went Brooklyn. He made sure the ball knocked 2 pins down, and that's how you make that shot right there. You don't just throw a strike ball because you can go right by the 5 pin.
All right, here's Paul Smith now. His 4th frame coming up. He's working on a spare in the 3rd. And a spare for Chris Soule in his 4th. So a strike gets Paul Smith right back into things.
He's got to be thinking, I don't want to go high. Lanes are drying out a little bit. I'm thinking maybe move a board or 2 to the right just to get a little bit more oil, make sure I throw it good.
And it rockets down the lane.
Smash. Great release. Great line right there. Loves the shot.
Down 1 through 3 is Paul Smith after this strike.
So it's so important after you release the ball, you continue that arm swing on the same path and make sure you throw through the ball. It's kind of like a baseball player when they swing a bat. You got to swing through the ball. You just don't stop it.
Such late action on his ball.
That's all that energy being stored up, and as soon as it hits the dry boards, dead right.
Fifth frame. Boy, we haven't had either bowler in our championship match with 2 straight strikes.
His feet got a little fast right there. Bowlers like Paul, and I know exactly what he's doing because I do it the same way. I don't have a big backswing, so I have to kind of run to the foul line if I want to generate more speed. He actually got a little fast with his feet, got out of timing. Watch his body. His whole body weight is still moving forward a little bit uncontrollably, even as and after he's releasing this ball. Gets a little bit off balance right there.
Trying to pick up the spare, and he does. And Smith is actually, well, down 1 through 3. He's got a 79 through 4, and Chris Soule is working on a 70 plus whatever he rolls on this ball. The top seed in the 5th frame cleans him up.
Excellent shot right there. Chris, to qualify, shot 204, 213, 215, 235, 190. Those are real good games because the cuts were very low today.
And he came right over that second arrow and got just the right action.
Yeah, he's not playing the big break point in the back, so he's going to be a little bit more of the letter C as opposed to a hockey stick like Paul is looking for.
And now with a strike in the 5th, he's working on trying to get a double here in the 6th. And that's the first one for either bowler in this match.
That's an excellent shot. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to get down and stay down throughout the shot. That actually that pushes the ball a lot longer through the pattern, holds the energy towards the end. He doesn't need that big snap, but that ball is definitely strong enough to knock the 10 pins down.
All right, now Paul Smith is working on a spare in the 5th. He's at 89 plus this ball, but he needs to start getting some strikes. 6th frame. That'll do it.
That's a great shot. He's got to get to a point right now where you don't even care. You're not overthinking. You're not trying to do anything crazy. Just get up there, put your hand on the ball, and just wheel it like you always know how to do.
And wheeling it is definitely what he's doing. Now it seems to be coming more over the second or in between the 2nd and 3rd arrow, changing up a bit.
Exactly. I think he's not getting out so far to the left, and we know to the left is going to be more dry. So he's actually going a little bit straighter up 10, which is giving him a little bit longer length in the pattern, and he's just got enough break to bring it back.
7th frame. And 2 in a row for Smith.
You know, that's a great adjustment, and you picked it up, Mark. He's not sending it out so far to the left to get that strong bite on the back. He's going straighter up 10. The ball is actually staying on that pattern a little bit longer, and it's a little bit more consistent back end for him. That was a good pickup.
And 2 big strikes for Paul Smith to stay in this match. Now Sol's got 2. He's looking for that elusive turkey. Ooh, the 10.
Now that ball definitely got left of his target. It did actually make the pocket, but it didn't have enough gas on the ball when it hit the head pin. So that's when you leave your corner pins right there.
Now, Smith goes first in the match. He's got so much speed, the revolution. You say it spreads the oil sometimes. Can that make it a disadvantage for Sol?
Absolutely. It's definitely an advantage if you throw more revs, an aggressive bowling ball. You can really mess up the pattern for that other person.
Wow, a huge open frame in the 7th for the top seed, Chris Sol.
All tournament, we talked about when you don't strike, obviously covering those spares, making sure you don't give your opponent anything. And these guys are so good at it. A momentary lapse of concentration. Just go by a single pin spare. It's easy to do.
And that 10 that stayed up, and you think it was just kind of a rushing it, a lack of concentration?
Yeah, that's what happens. It's like you made it 5,000 times in your life. Here's another one. You just go and you don't really prepare.
Sol here in the 8th needs something big. Oh, it teetered.
That's a sign of a great bowler too, right there. You know, we're actually going to have to
have a reset. That pin fell as the pin sweep came through. What happened here?
Well, there's no time to beat yourself up. So what you got to do is, you're so upset at yourself for missing the spare. Here it is, the 7th frame. It's a big part of the match. What you have to do is just let everything go, and you have to make sure that
that pin was wobbling for a long time. I mean, I know slow motion, but now the pin setter came down and lost the pin, couldn't grab it.
Yeah, there's a rule actually, and you have to be sure you're watching, and a lot of us don't, and other people that you're bowling against might pick it up. If it falls before any part of a machine, whether it's the sweep or the table that comes down, if it falls before any of those interact, it's a strike. If something touches it, whether it's the rack or whether it's the table that comes down, then you have to actually reset that pin.
And now, can they do that? Someone's down there.
So the mechanic has this long stick. There he goes.
All right. So the 1 pin remains, which is
That would be the 9 pin.
and Soul needs to pick it up, coming off the open frame in the 7th. And Paul Smith is bowlers are creatures of habit, and this is a little bit of a delay that has had both Soul and Smith waiting around for a moment.
Absolutely.
He's back in focus there.
On the Professional Bowlers Tour, during every match, there's a part in time in the match where they actually go to commercial. It's about the 4th, 5th frame. And the professional bowlers will tell you the hardest shot to make all game is when you come right back from commercial, because you lose that momentum.
Soul concentrating, and that was a very clean pickup. And here's Paul Smith, and the door is open. Can he go through now here in the 8th frame? The 7 stood up.
It's amazing.
Boy, what kind of match do we have here?
Crucial part of the match. What do? You put everything you got into the bowling ball. You throw the best ball you can possibly throw, and you get robbed like that. 4 pin goes flying around the 7 pin.
Smith has the lead through 7. He's at 138, and he's at 147 plus what he can do with this. 148 through 7. An 11 pin lead through 7. They've both marked in the 8th with a spare.
I'll tell you what, it's almost easier to throw a double in the 10th than it is to make a 7 pin in this part of the match.
Well, it'll be the 9th frame now for Smith, and he will watch Soul finish out first. So he'll have the advantage and the chance to watch, correct?
Yep, Paul Smith, possible 228.
And 2 left. And pin count at this point, crucial.
Yeah, that changes in a hurry right there. 217 possibility for Chris Soul.
He's 21 up through 7.
Well, 216 possibility for Paul Smith now. So if everyone strikes out for the rest of the way, Chris Soul will win by 1 pin.
Smith picks up the spare. Now he has the advantage on the board. He'll have at least a 9 pin advantage through 8.
Yep, there's actually 1 pin separating these two if everyone strikes out.
First of 4 needed for Soul.
That was a perfect shot. I'm really impressed with Chris, how he gets down low, stays low throughout the shot, trusts everything. Look at that ball get out to about the 4th board. He stands up, he likes the angle it's going in. The 4 pin just kisses the 7. He knows he has a 1 pin lead. Needs this strike here to stay in the lead.
And 2 are left. The 3 and the 9. And what does that do to the potential final score for Chris Soul?
So he's got 197 possibility now. And Paul Smith still has 216 possibility. So If we don't throw strikes in the 10th frame, it's going to go back and forth very close.
And this 3-9 is a mini split. You got it. Nicked the 9.
Yep, that's called double wood. And if you're watching from home, you don't want to throw straight at that. You want to be able to hook the ball. If you actually get the front pin, and if your ball is going on any kind of an angle, you're definitely going to carry the back pin. You just want to make sure that you hit the front pin to the left, because the ball's continuing on that angle, it's going to knock down. But if you go straight at it, if you're not dead on, you'll miss that back pin.
Last roll for Chris Soule. Finishing with a flurry. 197 for the top seed. And now he has to sit back and watch Paul Smith.
So Paul needs a mark in the 10th. He either needs a strike or some kind of a spare.
Good last roll for Soule. Not much question about that.
All he needs is a mark. And with the power and speed and revs that he throws, he does not want to go high. He doesn't want to miss the head pin. He just has to make a good shot and hit the head pin on the left-hand side somewhere.
Nine ain't bad. It's got the 6 remaining.
No, he needs the spare though.
He's at 185 through 9. He's at 194 plus.
With all the marbles on the line, that was a great shot. Put it right where you
Bad
want
break?
it. Yeah, kind of, yeah.
So 1 pin remains. And then he actually has to get a couple.
He's going to throw a rocket if he makes the spare.
And he picked it up. Paul Smith on the verge. He just has to get it down the lane.
Yeah, he needs 2 pins to tie, 3 to win. I have a feeling this ball might be about 35 miles an hour.
And it just broke and plucked it off. For the championship, Brooklyn's in the house, and so is Paul Smith, the champion of the Cambridge Credit Counseling Invitational, 205 to 197. Our champion is Paul Smith. We'll come back and talk with him in a moment here on CPTV Sports.